Hi, welcome everybody. I'm excited today for so many reasons. I knew that when we first decided to do some of these live webinars to introduce a lesson plan and then a student project guide that would go with would be really great fun and informative. I absolutely wanted to have guests on. And this is where it just gets so much fun because today is World Bee Day. On top of that, I'm wearing a shirt that says be kind. And is that coincidence completely? Well, maybe not completely. The shirt, I kind of knew a little bit of a secret. But the fact that it's World Bee Day, that I swear I had no idea. In fact, I also happened to Google Claude Monet and bees because I wondered if maybe he had painted a bee or something like that. And listen to this. They say that Claude Monet's eye, his right eye was like bee-like because he had developed cataracts, which created sort of this yellowing of the way he saw things. He got one of his eyes fixed. And when he would cover up one eye and paint, it was very dark and muted. YouTube this, I'm not kidding you, it's so interesting. The other eye, when he would close the bad eye and use his good eye, it was really vibrant. And they said that they think that that's how honeybees see. So bring it all around to my guest today. Elementary art educator and beekeeper, Casey Kemper. Casey, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Hello, it's great to be here, pun intended. So I am live out here from the hive and I am just hanging out with my girls. The last 3 days, it's been raining here in southeast Wisconsin. So they are just thrilled to get out and start collecting pollen, and they are just out here moving.
That is so awesome. So let's actually talk a little bit about your bees and about your outfit. So I'm going to switch to you as the presenter so that people can get a good view of what you're doing, and tell us a little bit about this whole beekeeping thing.
All right, so I have been beekeeping for 2 years. Originally, when my dad retired from his job, he got me into beekeeping, and this is just a single deep hive. And what you're seeing right now is a lot of the female workers just coming out and collecting pollen. You can see how quickly they go back and forth to the hive here. What I'm wearing right now, this is just your standard beekeeping suit, beekeeping gloves. This here is a hive tool. In a moment, I'm going to open up the hive and show a frame which has brood, a little bit of honey, and this tool is used to help open up that box because, as you know, honey is really sticky and it helps scrape off that excess residue.
That is so amazing. So are you going to actually lift the lid on camera?
So this owl here is just a weight, and some beekeepers keep rocks just because you don't want it to blow over because of the wind. So this is just the lid. So are you ready for me to lift this up?
Oh, yes.
All right, let's do this. So I'm lifting this up and you can see some of the bees on the top here. I haven't seen them in about a week, so I always like seeing the progress. Right around this time of year, they are building so much comb. So this is a top frame here. It's about to get crazy, folks. But bees are actually really docile creatures. This was a new frame that I just put in, and you can see how crazy they get because I lifted it up and now they know I'm in their world.
Wow.
I'm going to set that and pick up an even heavier frame that's got more. So part of beekeeping is every like 10 days picking up these frames and inspecting the hives to see how they're doing.
Wow, wow, wow. Unbelievable. This is so great because everybody's getting like a bonus STEAM lesson here.
This one's great because you can see all this brown area on here is the brood, which is the baby bees that they're capping.
Oh, that is fascinating.
So in this hive, there's roughly 50,000 bees.
And when you started the colony, how many, I mean, did you get like a jar full of bees? Like, was there 2 bees and then they just started having babies?
So typically, people will get a package. There's bees on my computer. It's great. Typically, people will get a package of bees. So it's about a 3-pound package of like 10,000 bees, and they'll get a queen. And the queen comes in a little cage with a marshmallow. And what happens is when you put the queen in the hive with the bees, they have to accept her as their leader, as their boss. And what's going to happen is her pheromones are going to emit, and they're either going to accept her or reject her, and she'll eventually eat her way out of this marshmallow in this little cage cell, and then they'll either start producing bees and honey or it won't work out. So it's just one of those miracles of nature.
Totally is, but I can completely feel about that bee and that marshmallow. Nothing like a good soft marshmallow is all I'm saying. I just am not sure I can resonate that kind of leadership from my marshmallow eating. So fascinating. This is outstanding, Casey. Do you have more to share, or should I go to the footbridge while you get ready for the next step?
I can go and get set up for the next step. Was there any questions about anything with this hive right now?
No questions yet, but if you have questions, feel free to ask them. And then after the Claude Monet section, we're going to come back to Casey. He's going to show us how to draw a bee, and then we will, you can start asking questions, and we will have a question and answer session. So thank you, Casey, so much for that.
Right.
We'll let you get your bees wrangled up and your outfit off so you're ready to teach us how to draw bees. I want to talk a little bit about the Claude Monet Japanese Footbridge. This is the full lesson plan that can be found on Arcata Career Resource Center, Nasco Educate. It also is on nascoeducation.com on our website. We also have, for the way that times are changing and distance learning is happening and students are teaching, or teachers are teaching students at home, this is a project guide that can be shared with students that is just the steps. This is going to give you a lot more of the history and a little bit more of the tips, but this is the steps, and the video that we are going to show is going to sort of take you through to the final piece. So enjoy the video, and then we'll be back with Casey soon. Hi, I'm Kris Bakke with Nasco Education. I'm so lucky because we get to work with teachers on lesson plans and developing lesson plans in the classroom. And it's just always a great experience. This particular lesson plan by Nicole Elizabeth Roth from New Jersey is based on Monet's Japanese Footbridge. And so with all of our lesson plans, the teachers don't claim original authorship. they just say, hey, here's a lesson plan that I have developed for the class on this subject, and here's the materials and the instructions that I use. We know that there's lots of ideas out there, and people develop them and come up with their own ideas. And we want you to do the same. In fact, we've created a project guide. It's a one sheet developed for an individual, a student, to be able to take this one sheet and come up with the basic lesson plan as well. This was developed for elementary students, grades 1 through 4, so it's going to be a very simplistic version of Monet's Footbridge, and I'll show you the quick steps. So you start with sketching your bridge. I did darken it with Sharpie just so that it would resonate on the video better, but just a little bit of a sketch. And from there, you're going to take either crayon or oil pastel and go over your sketch with the colors that you want. And there's some choice there. You'll be able to put in a vertical background of your sort of your sky and what the background that you want it to be. And in this case, I used blues and yellows to give sort of that Monet-ish kind of look. After you do that, you can then add in the water. So the water is going to be some cool colors, and you want to show some movement in the water as well. And then let it fully dry. And then you can go back in with your oil pastels and add some of the Monet lilies that he is so famous for. You could actually do the lilies first and then put the water over because it will resist, but either way works, and it gives your students some options there. We hope that you will take a look at all of the lesson plans that are available at nascoeducation.com and on our K to Career Resource Center called Nasco Educate, and enjoy. So yeah, it is a fun little lesson plan to do with your kids, and I love the fact that when a student creates the footbridge, they feel like they've created a masterpiece. I get that, because anytime I'm learning something, I actually did Casey's self-portrait beekeeper one. Yeah, it's really elementary, but it made me feel really good. So I'm going to see if Casey is ready. He's not quite ready yet. Casey might have to, you might have to click your camera on from coming inside. Perfect. Welcome back, Casey. Are you ready to show us how to draw a bee? And I am going to ask all the bee questions that you are asking Casey. I think what we'll do is have him show us how to draw the bee, and then we'll come back to his face and we'll ask all these great questions, because we've got some super good questions for you, Casey. But cool. Teach us a little bit about the bees.
It's awesome. Be kind. I love it.
And also, too, you guys, the thing that I want to share is that on top of being this amazing beekeeper, and he's going to show us how to draw a bee, just wait till he shows you how he sets up distance learning, too. So there's all kinds of amazing things happening today.
I also, if anyone's interested in my tools and things, I brought in some tools. We can talk about beekeeping. How honey looks.
I think you have to hit your camera again.
All right. So I also
there you go. We're perfect.
And you can see all the honey's actually dripping on this. I brought in a frame with honey from last year. And I brought in that resource that I'm going to put my screen down here. And I just have the life cycle of the bees. And I actually have some little educational bees that I show my students about just the life cycle and the process, starting from an egg to a larva to a pupa to the actual bee, and the life cycle is really interesting. A question I get a lot about bees is how long do they live? And it really can change a lot, because they almost go into this really slow buzzing stage in the winter where they can live longer. But typically, they can live throughout the summer, but every 21 days they're redeveloping. The craziest thing, I talked about the queen in the queen cage before. The queen, there's been reports of queens living several years. So that's just a completely different setup. And that's one of the things I find most fascinating.
The life cycle is also in the handout. So on, most likely on the right-hand side of everybody's screen, there's sort of a control panel and it says handouts. I have included all of Casey's information because he's got great resources. I've included the honeybee life cycle, and I also included the Japanese Footbridge lesson plan. I'm getting smarter at this. So keep going, Casey.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about distance learning is like we're figuring out how to be more effective and share more resources. And we can share my website too. I added the Claude Monet YouTube video because I thought that was just so interesting and awesome for the connection. So I'm just gonna slide this to the side here. Here's my piece of paper here. I have just some Sharpies and some crayons and some pencils, and we're gonna just go ahead and we're gonna draw a very basic cartoon honeybee here. So I'm gonna be a risk taker just because when I'm drawing on the screen a lot of times, I'll go in with Sharpie first, not pencil. But if you wanna use pencil, go ahead in case you make
Hey, Casey, hold on for 1 second.
Sure.
Can you, we see your screen and
Yeah.
do you want your screen on or do you want to turn that off?
For the drawing?
Yes, because we see, I think we see your front page. What is that called? I got like a split screen of you.
See, this is the technology part. I'm seeing just my screen here.
Turn off screen sharing. If you turn off screen sharing, we can make it just you. There you go.
That's a lot better. All right.
No worries. No worries.
Okay.
We're all used to this, right? We're getting,
yes.
you know, it's
like what button did I
it's how we learn.
Okay, so here is my paper, and I just have today, I have, like I said, pencil, Sharpie, I'm gonna use some crayons, and this is gonna be a cute little cartoon bee, and just try your best as we're going along here. I'm gonna be that risk taker, like I said, I'm gonna use Sharpie first, and what I'm gonna do is I'm actually drawing upside down, so I swear I'm an elementary art teacher, I'm trying my best, but I'm gonna draw upside down for you to see with how the screen is here. And right now I'm gonna just draw the bottom of the bee down here, and then we'll work our way up to the top. So I'm drawing with my finger first. So we have that bottom area, and with cartoon bees, I like to, here's my bee model here. I like to just kind of add an exaggerated stinger. And then you can decide how many stripes that you want to have. A lot of times cartoon bees that you see are actually not honeybees. They're based off the really fluffy, cute bumblebees, which do not make honey, but they're an awesome creature, a great pollinator. I'm just going to add that stripe across here. I'm going to go with a thicker line here. Then I'm going to come across here and just add another stripe. And then let's go in and draw the next part. It's almost like a circle shape here. Come back down and add. And then the head is going to be just a circle. There we go. And because it's going to be a more cartoon bee, I'm going to put a little smile on our mouth here. And I love looking up close at my bees, watching my hive. I like to just hang out there, and their tongues are so cute to watch them stick out. Here we have the little tongue.
A bee has a tongue?
Yes, it does.
Listen to that. Oh my gosh. That's probably going to be my favorite takeaway of the day.
You know, the more I learn about bees, the more like I keep finding out. And it's actually almost, it goes against science, the fact that they can fly with such little wings for their body size. If you ever get a chance to watch the Bee Movie, because I absolutely love that cartoon. I show it in my class when we work on a project. It's a cartoon from, I think it's already like 10 years old. So I'm just gonna draw, sometimes I draw heart shapes for the bees, but I'm gonna draw just 2 wings up here for my bee. So we have almost like a upside down raindrop. And then here's the second one to the side here. And you can decide, do you want to add inside details for those wings, or you can just keep them simple like that. And bees have 6 legs, so I'm just going to show the first 3 on the front here. I'm just going to come down. There's 1. And there is 2. And there is 3. And a lot of times when I teach, when I demonstrate for students, so they're not behind me and they're in front of me at a small table, I draw upside down, but I feel rusty because it's been about 2 months not teaching in person. And then I'm going to come on.
For you guys there, and I'm telling you, those students guaranteed miss you.
And I miss them a lot too. And I'm going to go in with 2 cartoon eyes. I'm feeling a little nervous about this, so I'm going to use my pencil first just to see how this is going to look. What I do is I kind of have them overlapping just a little bit. And bees actually have an eye, like they see ultraviolet light, so their eyes are super interesting of how they perceive the world. Even though I talked about their lifespan, and you might think, wow, they only live, like they can only live 21 days. They don't perceive time like that, so don't feel too bad for them. So there's one eye there, and then there's the second eye there. And I always like to give a fun little highlight to those eyes. So I'm gonna put in just a smaller circle there, and then I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna just use this thicker marker.
Casey, I am actually drawing with you, and I've never been so happy because I always draw bees bad. And so like this makes me so happy that mine looks, you're going to be amazed at how borderline realistic it is.
I try to like do a combination of minimal with real little ones. Like when I was doing my beekeeping beekeeper self-portrait, I would just like make a little small circle like a bumblebee with a face for the tinier one. The last thing I'm gonna add to my bee is the antennas, because they're great. And actually I did a little bee craft the other day, and I really put in some crazy antennas on this one.
Fun.
And I didn't put antennas on this one, but this is my little happy bee rock that I made for my
Adorable.
And I'm gonna come up here and I'm just gonna add some fun little antennas there. And then what I'm gonna do next is I'm just gonna take my crayons and I'm gonna color in those stripes. You could go in on your own and go in with a fun background. You could add more bees. You could add a hive in the background.
I'm using Mr. Sketch markers because they're so juicy, and it's covering a lot of ground. It's making me real happy.
My advice for Mr. Sketch, make a honey scented marker, because I would love that.
There may be I did share this with our rep because I told her that we were using Sharpie and that I was going to use Mr. Sketch. And so she may be watching. So Christina, if you're watching, we need some
We want the honey.
Mr. Sketch. That would be fabulous.
The biggest thing is people will ask me, is it a bee or is it a wasp or a hornet? And bees, one thing you can tell right away that it's a bee is they actually have hair, so they're actually furry. So I'm adding a little, just with the crayon here, I'm adding a little bit of like hair, brown hair here on my bee. They have a little bit of brown. And then I'm adding, since I use Sharpie, and I don't want to color in with Sharpie because it would be too dark around my bee space, I'm just going to go and use a little crayon here.
If you're wondering why I'm giggling, it's because my bee is pretty darn cute.
I like to overlap my crayons and markers and colored pencils to make my own colors. I always say, just try your best and have fun with whatever you're creating. All right, so I think I'm done with mine.
Love, love, love it. So while we flip the screen to, I'll have you flip your screen to you, and then Andy can bring it back on me, and I will share my bee. I put a tiny little crown on her.
Ooh,
And I also put a little lipstick on her because she's the queen. My fur didn't really turn out very good because I was using marker and not crayon. But overall, I kind of think I nailed it. So some of the questions, let me jump over to my questions and make my screen a little bit larger now, is somebody wanted to know where you got the bees for the demonstration. You are, oh, Jason just showed me his. It's really good. Where did you get the bees for demonstration? Like you're a beekeeper. Or do you mean the actual, I should say, do you mean the real bees or do you mean the, tell us where you got the real bees and also the little rubber bees that you used in the life cycle.
My bees came this year from a bee keeper in Florida. So most bees that you get for orders come from either California, Georgia, or Florida. So there's a whole another element to the beekeeping business with how they actually ship them on huge semi trucks. So then you drive to your bee dealer and you would pick up your package, and it's such an exhilarating feeling to go and pick them up. And there are people who specifically they create, like they breed queens or they sell bees too, and they're not in it for the honey. And then the other interesting thing, I've learned more about the commercial bee business. So I'm a hobbyist, but the commercial bees for our state in the north, like Wisconsin, they'll actually ship their bees by semi to California so they can pollinate the almond trees. So that's where most of the bees in the country get shipped, is to California, for just the pollination of the almond tree. It takes so much work. So
wow, that is awesome.
The rubber,
awesome.
To actually answer the question, the rubber bees also, I got this at the Nasco store in person last year. So I know, great plug, I swear. It just was
I
randomly.
didn't know, I promise.
I got them and I just have them in my classroom, and then I'll like set them on my students' desk when they're working. It's super fun.
That is fantastic, and thank you for that. How about when do you get to harvest the honey?
So last year I harvested just once, and that was early to mid-August, and they call it the honey flow, and the bees are just going crazy making the honey because in their minds they're storing for the winter. And then I'm like, let's add another story. Let's keep making as much as we can. In some ways, tricking them to make more honey. So usually the end of the summer for Wisconsin. But if you have bees that build up throughout the year and they get a good start, like if we have flowers and not rainy days, you could end up doing a harvest in June or July too.
Very cool.
The
How
cool
about
thing-
how long did it take to establish that hive that you showed us?
So that hive is like brand new. It's like 2 or 3 weeks old. So that came with some of the frames. So in about like the life cycle, in about another week, it's just gonna boom with baby bees that you saw in those cells.
Yeah.
And you can tell it just explodes and there's more traffic. So when I first get it, this is an entrance reducer, and on the front, just to keep out mice or wasps or other pests, I keep this in there so the guard bees that protect the inside, they have less of a space to guard. So as you saw with mine today, I already have taken this out because there is so much activity, or else they would get stuck coming in and out of the entrance. And as the hive goes up with the corkscrews holes, I take those out so they can get in the top of the hive too.
It's like, seriously,
I
this
could
is
talk
just
about this all day.
fascinating. The queen bee, the question on the queen bee,
Yeah.
is the queen bee successful most of the time? And when do you know if she has not been accepted?
Generally they'll kill her if she's not accepted. Sometimes if she's like, yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's the circle of life.
No, I just mean poor thing.
Yeah. What
My
happened?
queen bee's a little nervous now.
What happened last year with my hive is they swarm. So right now is swarm season. And what happens is bees naturally want to move to a new area, and they'll get up and they'll leave and they'll go into a tree. So you might see a cluster. So for beekeepers, this is a big time of year to make swarm traps to catch them and get a new group of wild bees. So what happened last year is my queen bee wasn't producing enough. The worker bees decided to make a queen cell, and there's beekeepers that could go into the science of this way more. They create a new queen, the queens fight to the death, and then the queen that lives takes control of the hive.
That's awesome. That sounds sort of real life, like, maybe not so much, but wow.
Like Game of Thrones, but bees. And the queens can repeatedly sting. A lot of times with honeybees, if they sting you, they're like almost like they're gonna die. They're not gonna recover. But queens can sting repeatedly. They're very slow because of their large abdomen when they fly. But they're very, they live a long time. Their longevity is there. I like to envision them sword fighting a little bit with their stingers. That's how that goes. One thing I grabbed here that I get questions about is the smoker. So when I would harvest honey, those bees are going to be angry with me because I'm taking their product and I put in that stat about how much flowers takes to make honey. So they're going to be angry with me, and they're going to be angry for a couple days in my yard with me. So when I open up my hive, unlike today, I would use a smoker, and this is a good tool to have as a beekeeper. What I do is I put things like evergreen wood pellets in here, and then I light it with a lighter, and then you just give it a few puffs like this. It's not going. And this is what I would spray in the hive to keep them calm so they're not attacking me. And if you think, well, that's like not nice, you're smoking these bees. If you don't do that, they'll attack me in my suit, and then they'll die because they're stinging me in my suit. So it's actually a way is like, yes, I'm smoking them, they can't breathe, they're like frozen, but at the same time, you're preventing them from stinging you and all that aggravations. Once a couple bees sting you, they emit pheromones, so then the whole hive starts buzzing and they're like, they know you're out there.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, like crowd mentality, right?
And bees have facial recognition, so they do recognize me with their eyesight, so they know, like, I can tell. I mean, maybe it's just coming from me, but I can tell they know me when I'm in the yard and when I'm walking around. Like, I feel like they know me. As you saw in the beginning of the video, they are pretty chill with me hanging out there.
Well, and before Casey and I went live, he actually was out there without the suit on, and his bees were just sort of flying around him. And I'm like, you could tell that, I'm thinking if I was out there with them, they'd be like, zzz. And so, yeah, I'd have been nervous, but they definitely knew who you were. How did you learn to become a beekeeper?
So if you're interested in beekeeping, I highly recommend getting a mentor. So my dad is definitely my mentor. And I also joined a bee club. There are clubs in counties and cities for bees. One thing that I did is I went and I worked a hive before I had my bees. And by working a hive is I opened up a hive, and this was in Milwaukee County. It's actually the guy who Andy Kemper. He does the observation hive for the Milwaukee Zoo. So I went to his apiary, which is the word for farm, and I opened up his hive. And one of the activities for newbies like myself is you go in and you see if you can find the queen. So you inspect each frame. That's what I held up with a comb. Make sure, are they laying eggs? Is there honey? How do the bees look? Are they filling up the cells? And you kind of look, and the queen will, like, she's smarter. I feel like she's way smarter than the other bees. She's lived longer. She'll like scurry around the frames, and then if you can find her, you can say, okay, there's the queen, there she is. And what some people do is they'll take like a paint marker, and they'll give her they'll catch her with a little like net, and they'll give her a little dot so they can recognize her easier, which I find is interesting.
I never knew you could
find, like, the more I learn about the hobby, there's more like interesting things. One thing that I started using last year is like a turkey feather, because I find like if I'm in there brushing I just like the unique tools, like in the creative things. So I'll like brush the bees when I'm in there inspecting the hive with the turkey feather, because it's more gentle and I don't want to crush them at all. So I just feel like,
awesome.
Yeah, having like the unique tools. For the deep hive like I have, this is an example of the like the honey would be up here of how they build these cells, and the shape that they make, this ties back into art, is these are hexagons, and that is the strongest shape, and it's a pattern that's made in nature too. So this is how it holds together. And then this is my hive tool up close. You can see it scrapes some honey and residue over the last years, but this is an awesome tool, and it's got the hook to pull up.
Yep.
Those too.
Somebody also said this would be a nice addition for an ecosystem display in science. Do you ever work with the science teacher at your school?
So I teach elementary, kindergarten through 4th grade, and I have not actually connected with science teachers, but that would be something I would definitely be open to doing. So
heck yeah. Oh yeah.
All those cross connections.
And I'm such an interrupter, I apologize.
No, it's good. It's good.
I think that we need to have you back as a guest on with our STEM and STEAM team to talk about this again, because I'm guessing not a ton of science folks probably joined in today, but we have, of course, the amazing art educators who get it. And so, not that science doesn't, I'm just saying that you guys get the whole thing and you're joining today. So yes, we need to probably have you as a guest again. How did the bees know where to get the pollen?
That's just like built, that's like built in them. One of the coolest things about bees though is, let's say they go out and they find pollen and they're doing well in an area. They'll come back and they'll do something that's called the waggle dance. I'm going to see here. I'm jumping around. I'm going to see here. I have a little bee book that I read to my students. And yes, here it is. This is the page. Sorry to the copywriter for just showing your book. But they actually dance, and they call it the waggle dance. And they do that to communicate, which is amazing. So they do this turn in the radius of the sun to tell the direction where the flowers would be, so they can go out and search and gather the food.
That is awesome. Like, what's the name of that book? Share the name of that book with everybody.
This is just Being Bee by Scholastic. Can you see the screen?
Yep, very good.
So
Thank you.
And when I share this with, so I did a lesson with bees in February with my students, and I'll read them little bits of this book. And my third graders will actually like label the parts and anatomy of the bees, or they'll make different drawings of bees. While I'm moving around this room here, I'm going to show you, I love to make bee art too. And I will show you some of my bee art that I've made.
Cool. That is fabulous.
I feel like now I have much more time to make art than I used to. I have no excuses to work down here. And this is like my virtual classroom where I am. I converted my sunroom into a art studio / classroom. So I kind of just put things that I like in here. I'm just going to show around. So this is like my setup that I have for my desk area, my art supplies. But I love it because of the natural life. I got my plants growing over there. So
it is
just
a great space. Absolutely. So there's a few more bee questions, but we're also running a little short on time, and I really want you to share your website. I really want you to share how you set up for distance learning, because you do it in a really unique way, and I think people would really enjoy how you do it.
Sure. So I'm going to click show my screen here so we can see. Can we see my can we see my actual screen now?
Yep, elementary art lessons, May 18th through the 22nd.
All right. So this is my website here in the journey. So what I did is I made this website a few years ago because I was a travel blogger just for my own fun, and I used it just to document. My wife and I love to travel. And what I did is when everything happened with COVID is I converted my blogs right here, or my archives, I converted it into weekly art lessons as a blog post. So just a way, and I like the clean look. I use Squarespace for my website. I mean, no plug to them. I just like, it's clean. It's really simple. You can add links in it. So here's an image of myself beekeeping. I can put in photos. Here's that lesson we were talking about with Kris about making yourself as a beekeeper. This is my little mascot, Honey the bee, the monster bee we have in my classroom. Here's that toilet paper bee. Here's the life cycle. And then here's that video of Claude Monet. Definitely check that out. And then here's my cat as a bee. I made a little box for, I know. So it's a little bit of humor. It's a little bit of what we're working on. I write a message to my students. The beginning was fantastic. This was Star Wars week. This was a big week. The first 3 weeks for the website and the engagement was great, but I feel like the novelty in the school year, just like in the regular classroom, has worn off a little bit. Here's my Star Wars page. I'm just gonna keep scrolling here.
So
but
fun.
it's fun just to have this as a separate weekly lesson instead of having different links in different places to go. I do not teach live with my students at all. I teach just by showing these lessons weekly, and then classroom, homeroom teachers will put them into their Google Classroom. I'm going to just share my Instagram account here too, because I share a lot on Instagram. So this is my Instagram account. Here's a picture of my little classroom and some more of my bee art here. So I just share as much as I can at this point, and we're about 2 weeks for the end of the year for me. Any questions on the website? It's Casey Kemper Art.
And the good news is I put all of your links and like your Instagram, your website, all the things that you gave me are in a separate handout for everybody. So so it is in the handout. We do have one question on where'd your Elements shirt come from, your t-shirt come from?
Oh, yes, I'm gonna stop showing my screen here. This, shout out to Art Day Designs. She has an Etsy account. She's an art teacher from, I wanna say, Pennsylvania. So she designs these t-shirts. So if I ever forget what I'm teaching, I can just talk about the elements of art because they're all on my shirt, all 7 of them here.
That is great. Also, what is your classroom mantra?
So I'm gonna see if I can, I thought I had it on my screen. Now I'm gonna go back to my screen. I'm gonna go back to my screen here and show my screen. See, I'm getting better at this. This was a mural. My backdrop was the mural that we did when Governor Evers visited my classroom and the school for a little celebration. So I'm gonna,
exciting.
yeah, that was really cool. That was in January, and we had like 2 days notice, and I'm like, what am I gonna do? And it was right around our Heart Week. So we went in and made some hearts. So here is my Be Kind mural, and it just speaks as the motto for my classroom, and it's real simple. And I got Roy G. Biv up there, and I got a little cartoon bee that I painted, but don't judge the cabinets. It's only my 2nd year I'm organizing and cleaning, but
There is no judgment here.
Yeah, so this was before and this was after. So that's
my
like the
t-shirt
main
was
mantra,
quite on purpose.
is just to be kind, and it really stuck with the kids. It's just that simple, quick thing that helps.
Absolutely, and I love it. It is a universal message, and it applies to art, but it applies to life. Absolutely. Next question is it acceptable for people to post their blog lessons in their Google Classroom?
So let me go. Is my screen showing still?
Nope.
I think that like I would be fine if a teacher shared and credited my lessons and put them in a blog or link. And there are like the last week of school, I'm going to give shout outs to a lot of teachers I follow on Instagram or their blog. Yeah. And I think just as long as you're giving them credit and just saying the name, like I think that I would just ask for the same, because right now everyone's just kind of like trying to borrow and get new ideas. And I think just like a respect for someone's like time, that's all it is. I mean, you don't have to do that, but I think there's like an unspoken etiquette of it. So there are teachers YouTubes that I see and I'm like, do I really need to make this demonstration, or can I share this teacher's demonstration because it's awesome? And then I do, and I just give it credit to them. So the beekeeping lesson was actually Bright Day Designs, a teacher from New Jersey. So I actually messaged her and I was like, hey, yes, there it is.
Yes.
I was like to Dana, I was like, can I make my own YouTube version? And she said, yes, thank you for asking. Like, that's kind of above and beyond. But I feel like just my reputation in the art community, I don't want to be known as someone that's taking other ideas. If anything, I want to just give ultimate credit to folks. Am I going to credit someone on the color wheel like that popular color wheel? Not exactly when that started. There was a trend of making a found object color wheel. So I think there's just like a little bit of everything for sharing.
I have found, Casey, that in the art education community, seriously, 99% of the time, everybody is willing to share their stuff. I think you're right. It's always nice to do a shout out. We gave a shout out to Nicole Roth, who helped with this lesson plan. Clearly, it's Claude Monet's Japanese Footbridge, so it's not like she invented that, but she's just saying, this is how I did this particular lesson in the classroom, and we just want to give her credit for the work that she did. And so I think that's, it's being kind, and that's a good thing.
It is, and that's the motto. I like the Japanese Footbridge. I've done something similar, and I always add frogs because I love animals and things.
Now people should add bees.
Now add bees.
How did you make the heart mural is a question.
So that was inspired by the artist Jay Goldcrown, and literally it was, I have the process in one of my blog posts. Like, that was such a crazy day because I found out Friday they gave us short notice from the security staff for our governor of our state of Wisconsin was coming. And I'm like, we got to do something. And Monday I had 5 classes, and my classes are an hour long. And it literally started with 3rd grade, 4th grade. And I was just like, here's a bunch of paint. I set that up in my room on just this backboard. And we just started painting repeated hearts over and over each other. And with the younger students, some of them used oil and chalk pastels just because they couldn't get high enough. I had some step stools, but it was like literally the funnest day ever. I was doing the same thing, but I had this tarp on the floor, and I was like, grab a brush, and I called tables, and I spaced it out, taking turns. And yeah, I actually have that mural, the paper, we had it up in the hallway. I saved it in my classroom because I actually want to like maybe cut bits out and frame it because I just love how it turned out. It's a repetition pattern lesson too, just to repeat it. And I also love how it connected every single grade. So they just took ownership in it. Like, I was so impressed.
It's clear, it turned out fantastic. And I love those collaborative pieces. If we have missed a question, I will go back through, and if it's a question about bees, I'm not going to be able to answer it, but I will make sure to connect with Casey to answer. One super exciting thing is when I shared with our Sharpie rep that we've just been doing a lot of stuff with Sharpies on these lesson plans, and that it just seems like an absolute staple in an art teacher's classroom. And I told her that I was going to be using Mr. Sketch. She said that she would be willing to share some Sharpies. If you post your bee picture on Nasco's art education Facebook page, we'll do a random drawing and somebody will win some Sharpies. So post today. In fact, I'll let you post today and tomorrow, and then on Friday we will randomly draw a winner, and you'll I'll email you, or I'll send you a message, and we'll get your address, and you'll get some Sharpies. But it's been just amazing how much you can do with a single Sharpie. Like, oh my gosh. And often it's easy enough for a kid to have at home. So in a distance learning situation, it's excellent to have. Somebody also.
So even I have kindergartners use Sharpies. I think it's a little crazy, but even in the beginning of the year, I'm just like, hey, it's permanent. It's, you know, that's one of the ways of learning, is just letting them find that out for themselves, and it's fun.
Totally agree. My son, when I used it with my grandchildren's like, really, Mom, Sharpie? And I'm like, that's how they learn.
Exactly.
And they're really good artists. So somebody also, Teresa mentioned, have you ever thought about having the Wisconsin Honey Queen come to your class?
No, I haven't, but I definitely would like to do that. I would love to be back in school right now and be doing, yeah.
I know, my heart breaks for all of you guys on that front.
Yeah, it would just be like, I want to, yeah, keep building and doing more. So that's a great suggestion. I would definitely be willing to do that. That'd be really cool.
And I think we have time for at least one more question, which is what happens to the hives in the winter? Do you bring them inside?
So I wrap them with insulation, and they survive off their honey. And then recently, every beekeeper you talk to does like something a little bit different, and there's always different strategies, but keeping them ventilated for the moisture too. And what they do is they form a cluster around the queen, and they buzz enough to keep her warm to survive through the winter, which is just incredible because we get some extreme winters here.
Yes, absolutely. Do the bees ever get loose in your house?
So when I came in from doing the demonstration, I like look over my suit because there'll be a few that come in here, but there was none. But they get caught in my clothes and different things as I start looking around the room.
And then they know where to go back.
I just let them out. It's usually only a couple that gets caught in my bee suit at the most. So
this has seriously been amazing, and I can't thank you enough. I knew it was going to be fun, Casey, but I had no idea that I would learn so much today. Like, it's insane.
I love bees.
Fun
Like,
fact, I actually have a bee tattoo, but real inappropriate if I tried to show it, so that's not going to happen. Next Monday is Memorial Day, so we won't have an art webinar on Monday. We will have one on Wednesday. It's amazing blueprints, and we've been having some suggestions from you on some printmaking. So Tasha Newton is going to join us, and we haven't absolutely pinpointed what she's going to do, but I believe that we are going to do some printmaking with Tasha. And then on Thursday, we have abstract watercolor readings, and we have Caitlin Thompson, also known as Art with Coach T, and she's going to incorporate some weaving projects with us too. So more fun coming up next week, but not till Wednesday. Please, everybody, make sure to take some time to honor those that gave their life for us to live in a free country. Casey, I can't thank you enough. Like, seriously, this has been an absolute joy. I think we're going to need you to come back and talk some more bees with us. Everybody, there'll be a PD certificate with a follow-up email in one day. I think it will come on Thursday. It's probably sometime in the afternoon. If you don't get your PD certificate, you can reach me at kbakke@nascoeducation.com. And Casey, thank you. It was great. Everybody, keep teaching art, be well, and be safe.
Be kind, folks.
Be kind, absolutely.